Welcome to the Will and Aaron Show with William Kramer and my co-host Aaron Bontrager. We cover local sports, including the NIC and NLC conferences, plus teams in St. Joseph and Elkhart counties. We also cover college and pro sports. Today we will recap high school football week 6 and preview week 7, discuss big things happening in the college football world, talk about the NFL as well as Major League Baseball and the Southland Cubs playoffs. So let's jump into our first topic of this episode, and we're going to recap high school football week 6, starting with the Bremen Lions and John Glenn Falcons. Without the services of the arm of Silas Ladig, Bremen was forced to run the ball more than they typically do. Lance Moser had 150 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. And the Lions defense had 4 interceptions, and Bremen beat John Glenn 14-7. LaVille 21, Knott's 20. Paul DeWitt opened the scoring in the first quarter on a 34-yard rushing scamper. The PAT was blocked. Knott's responded when Cohen Watson scored from 1 yard out. Knott's led at halftime 7-6, which Aaron probably surprised a lot of people. Late in the third quarter, LaVille's Lucas Plummer scored on an 8-yard touchdown run and also converted the 2-point conversion to make LaVille go up 14-7. Now in the fourth quarter, Lucas scored on a 3-yard rushing touchdown to go up 21-7. Knott did score 2 rushing touchdowns. The latter touchdown was scored with just under a minute to go in the fourth quarter. Knott went for the 2-point conversion to win the game, but was denied by the LaVille defense. Coach Radke doesn't believe in moral victories, but to come so close to upsetting LaVille has to feel good for his ball club and for the Redskins. Now, if you're LaVille, Aaron, you have to feel kind of lucky that you came away victorious. You know, good teams find a way to win even when they are not playing their A game. And that's exactly what LaVille did.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, I guess.
Sometimes. Now, let's look to the Riley and Washington game. And I was actually at this game as I was working the game from Washington. And this was an incredible game. Just so many plays being made on offense. It was a back-and-forth game. Riley jumped out to an early lead, but Washington came back to take the lead. 26-24 with 6:24 to go in the fourth quarter. Riley tacked on a score to make it 26-21 with just a few minutes to go in the game. Now, Washington had the ball at the 1-yard line, Aaron, ready to put this game away when a fumble on the 1-yard line between the center and quarterback exchange fell on the turf, and Riley recovered. Now, the Wildcats had to go 99 yards to score, and they did exactly that, making the score 28-26 Riley. Now, Washington still had time to come back, and they were making a couple of completions. They were driving down the field, but unfortunately for the Panthers, a pick 6 as time went down to 0 on the score clock ended the game, and Riley won 34-26. What a heroic effort by both squads.
Yeah, tough way to lose if you're Washington. Did you see the nice grab by the one kid? I saw it on the news. I forget. It was the Washington receiver?
Yes, I did. That was by senior Jason Dockery. He had an unbelievable catch that really turned the tide for Washington.
Wow. But Riley holds on there, man. What a game. All right, we're going to move on to some NLC action. Northwood took care of business in Plymouth as they won 48-0. Owen Rader had another great game, had 5 touchdown passes to go along with his 264 yards. And according to Max Preps, he is in the top 5 in passing yards for Class 4A. He also is in the second place with 16 touchdown passes, which is just shy of the kid from New Palestine who has a little bit more. J.J. Payne and Nitro Tuggle each had 2 touchdown grabs. Both had over 100 all-purpose yards. Wes Yoder also had another 100 yards running and receiving combined. And the defense got a shutout here, led by Keith Miller, 10 tackles, Luke Miller, 9, and Ethan Evers with 7. And then Ryan Miller also had 2 interceptions, and Ben Fatarasso had 1 as well. I probably got that name wrong, but Northwood didn't look ahead and got the W. The next one, Northridge 42, Wawasee 17. Warriors opened up a 3-0 lead, but after that, the Raiders were just too much on offense. Their up-tempo system kind of hurt the Warriors in this one. Cade Carrington passed for 5 touchdowns to 4 different Raider receivers. The Raiders would lead 21-10 at half. Then they scored another 21 in the second half. Wawasee had some key injuries in this one. Senior quarterback Jackson Brown went out with a right leg injury. And they also didn't play with their 3-year starting left tackle. So the Warriors have a tough 3 games to end the season. Hopefully they get healthy. Moving on to Concord, they beat Goshen 37-7. Concord was in total control in this one. They led 23-0 at half. The Minutemen's defense was dominant, only allowed about a yard in the first half. 80 total yards the whole game. In offense, they wanted to establish the run, and they did that in this one. Behind a huge effort from their O-line, junior running back Shaman Moore, who rushed for 154 yards. He also caught a pair of touchdown catches from sophomore quarterback Hudson Glantz. And Glantz also found Michael Campanello on a 24-yard touchdown pass. Titus Hackworth came back from injury and scored 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So all Concord in this one. Goshen got a touchdown in the late time in the 4th. That was their only score. Another injury hits the Red Hawks with quarterback Quinn Bechtel. May have broken his collarbone in the 3rd quarter. Hate to hear this for an already banged-up Goshen team. Then moving on to the big game, Mishawaka 43, Warsaw 19. Will, I went with Warsaw on this one, and I was wrong. Shout out to my uncle and aunt. They gave me a hard time about this. A little context, their oldest son is an assistant coach for the Cavemen, so it was a good weekend for the Stoner family as Jimtown took care of business in their game too. Their youngest son, Corey, of course, is the head coach for the Jimmies. But back to the game here. So, man, I got to go back and watch this. The Cavemen were impressive in all phases. Their O-line led by Tanner Parmley and Dawson Nowacki, the Dogs, as they refer to themselves as. They were opening up some huge holes for quarterback Brady Fisher and lead back Chase Gooden. Both had over 20 carries. Fisher had 94 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Gooden added over 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns as well. Cavemen made huge plays on defense as well, led by Jack Troyer, had a huge interception. Malik Washington and Zeke Valdez added some big stops in the key moments of the game. And according to Coach Curtis, Warsaw didn't quit like they did the week before, so he saw some good things for this team. They were able to fight, but they couldn't overcome that start in the first half where Mishawaka really took it to them. And Warsaw turned the ball over 5 times, which you can't beat anyone turning the ball over that much, especially a team like Mishawaka. So shout out to Mishawaka. They're playing physical, powerful team that'll likely be moving up to number 1 in their class. Well-deserved, and what an impressive win. This is their first win against Warsaw since joining the NLC Conference, and the Cavemen improved to 6-0 for the first time since 2010. All right, we're going to move on to previewing some Week 7 games. Right now, as far as our predictions, I'm 17-2. Will, you're 18-3. So we've done pretty good with this.
Not bad, Aaron. Not bad.
Yeah, we'll see if we can keep this streak going. Here, Plymouth at Goshen. Both teams are. Any win would be good for them, so I think Goshen should win this one. We'll see how much the injuries have caught up with them. I think they have a little bit more talent and experience than Plymouth does, but nothing would surprise me in this one. If this is a game Plymouth can win this year, this is the one right here. I'll go with Goshen. Then we got Wawasee visiting Warsaw. Battle of the W. County rivals here squaring off in Warsaw. I think Warsaw will be hungry to get back on the winning end of things after 2 tough weeks. I like Warsaw to come out early, establish their physicality up front, and I like them to get their 5th win and 3rd conference win here. And then we have a battle of 500 teams. Concord 3-3 visiting Northridge, who's 3-3 as well. One of them will come away kind of being in that middle tier of the NLC conference. And I think Concord has grown a lot on offense, but so it should make this a pretty even matchup. I do favor Northridge just because if you look at their comparative games, Concord played Northwood a little better than Northridge. Northridge played Elkhart a little tougher than Concord. And then both teams, of course, dominated Wawasee. I think Concord's defense will get tested in this one, and I can see the Raiders kind of pulling away late. And, so Northridge gets the win here.
You know, Aaron, this is outside of Northwood and Mishawaka game, which you're going to preview next. This might be the second best game this Friday for NLC because Concord, like you said, they're slowly getting better. That defense of Concord, I've been impressed with. Yes, they give quite a bit of points against Northwood. Who hasn't? They gave up points against Elkhart. Who hasn't? But Northridge, I like their offense. It'll be neat to see who wins this battle between Northridge offense and Concord's defense. What can Concord's offense do against Northridge's defense? It should be a great game, great environment at Northridge. Gonna be a good one.
Yeah, definitely. So, Northwood 6-0 visiting Mishawaka 6-0. What a matchup we have in store for us. Conference championship likely on the line. A lot of eyes from around the state will be on this one. And Mishawaka has dominated in the previous 2 seasons since joining the NLC, that is. Northwood has one of the more explosive offenses in the conference and the area overall. Mishawaka is probably the more physical team, doesn't beat themselves. This game will be a battle of styles. Both teams are pretty physical up front, have speed on the edges, and have tough defensive units. Northwood's offense will pose some challenges to Mishawaka that they haven't really faced yet, maybe since Northridge. But I give the slight edge to the Cavemen O-line and D-line. They look like the toughest in the conference. I was impressed by watching them against Warsaw. So I'm going to go with Mishawaka, not because of my family ties, but I think I like the Cavemen to kind of pull away with the conference here. I think they have that tenacity and what it takes to outlast the Panthers.
Wow. So Aaron going with the Mishawaka Cavemen or the Northwood Panthers. What I call that is, I got to say, Mishawaka, I don't believe, has faced an offense like they're going to see Friday. I would characterize this game as power versus finesse. You have, I hate to even say that Mishawaka doesn't have speed because they do, but especially on the outside with the skill positions, can Mishawaka, in the back end of the defense, deal with the skill and the speed that Northwood is going to pose on them? Now, I would expect to see a lot of quick throws out of Northwood, plays that do not require a long time to develop, just because, like you were saying, you're giving the Mishawaka linemen the favor over Northwood, right? So they're probably not gonna have a lot of time to throw. So I would see a lot of shorter throws. And then the question to me is, can the secondary of Mishawaka close the space and then make tackles in space? You know, can they win those one-on-one battles on the perimeter? Because I just don't see Northwood having success in the interior of that defense and being able to rush the ball north and south. I think you got to win the perimeter if you're Northwood, win the perimeter, win the outside, and then try your best to pack the box and defense and stuff the line of scrimmage as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Northwood has like 4 or 5 quality playmakers. So yeah, if I'm Mishawaka, I would be a little scared of those guys, but we'll see what happens Friday night.
Man, I can't wait for Friday night for that game. That's going to be an incredible game to watch. I love Channel 46 and what they do for the game of the week. I know it's New Prairie and Riley, but I got to say, I'm beginning to wonder why it's not Northwood and Mishawaka. That would be a great game to watch on TV. So there's not a whole lot of great matchups in the NIC conference this week, but I do want to highlight 2 games. Angola, who is 4-2, they play at Mishawaka Marion, who is 2-4. Now, folks, don't get caught up in the records here, team records. When you look at the strength of schedule, Marion has played a tougher schedule. They come from a better conference, the NIC conference, rather than Angola's NECC conference. I think this game will be closer than what the team's win-loss records may indicate. Marion needs to focus on Angola star quarterback Tyler Call. He does a lot for the Hornets. How will Angola's defense handle Marion's athletes in space? I don't think Angola has seen the type of athletes that they're going to see this Friday. Now, the key to the game will be the battle in the trenches. I like Marion winning a close game here. It's going to be tough. It's going to have to take a lot of grit, but I like the Marion Knights getting their 3rd win of the season against the Angola Hornets. The next game in the NIC is John Glenn 3-3 at Lavelle 6-0. The Falcons started the season off 3-0. They were playing really well, but since then they've dropped 3 in a row. Now those losses, Aaron, were to Jimtown, Knox, and Bremen, so that's not the easiest stretch by any means. The Lancer defense, in particular, secondary, will need to limit John Glenn's quarterback, Aiden Johnson. He's having a nice year this year down there at Walkerton and has a multitude of wide receivers, especially their star playmaker, Tyron Larkin. Now, Laville has offensive weapons of their own in Plummer and DeWitt. This is an interesting matchup just because John Glenn is from the NIC, and historically, they've had the upper hand when it comes to Laville. The Lancers are having a magical year. Last week's surprisingly narrow win against Knox will factor into this game, as I think they'll have a great week of preparation and be dialed in this coming Friday. I like Laville winning this game and being 7-0. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about college football.
You can listen to the Will and Aaron Show podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube and like our videos. Follow us on Twitter at Will Aaron Show. You can follow the Will and Aaron Show Facebook page where you can interact by commenting, liking, sharing, and reviewing our podcast.
Welcome back to the Will and Aaron Show, where we talk about local college and pro sports. We are going to talk about some of the big headlines in college football. Let's start off with Notre Dame's win on the road against North Carolina, 45-32. Drew Payne threw for 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Irish compiled 287 yards on the ground, led by Audric Estime with 134 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. he had a 7.9 yards per carry average. Now, last week on our podcast, we talked about Audric and how we wanted to see him get more carries. And I know they don't listen to the Will and Aaron show, the Notre Dame folks, but hey, it was good to see that he did get more carries, and he definitely had a big impact on this overall game. Chris Tyree had 80 yards and 1 touchdown, and the other running back, sophomore Logan Diggs, 50 yards. Now, this is the first time I've seen Logan Diggs in the game. I liked what I saw, Aaron. Michael Mayer led all Irish receivers with 7 receptions and 1 touchdown. Lorenzo Styles and Logan Diggs each added a receiving touchdown as well. Now, give credit to the offensive line for Notre Dame. They played well. The Irish defense played well at times against, quite frankly, a good North Carolina offense. And that offense is going to put up big numbers against most of the teams they face this year. Notre Dame moves to 2-2, while North Carolina drops to 3-1 on the season.
Yeah, it seemed like the Irish adjusted. Tommy Rees did some things offensively, getting their playmakers the ball, kind of like what you alluded to last week. Sometimes it just comes down to that, getting guys like Mayer, Audric, and Tyree the ball more. So it's a good win for them.
Absolutely, man. It's great to see the improvement. It's nice to see Notre Dame football back to what we're used to seeing. Cincinnati 45, Indiana 24. Connor Beslick was modestly accurate, throwing for 280 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Sean Shivers led the Hoosier rushing attack with 79 yards and 1 touchdown. Cam Camper, IU's number 1 wide receiver, had 10 receptions and 126 yards receiving. Henderson and Shivers both had a receiving touchdown. Now, defensively, Cam Jones, once again, led the Hoosiers in tackles with 11, and Mullins had an interception as well. Now, Indiana, we knew, had little margin for error going into this game, and Aaron, they just simply made too many costly mistakes, including those 3 big turnovers. You just can't beat a team like Cincinnati with 3 turnovers and a quarterback who completes less than 50% of his passes. That's not a good recipe. If Indiana played their best game and they played really well, I think they actually could have beaten Cincinnati, but they just didn't do that. Indiana, to me, has potential to be a good, solid team. They just need to put 4 quarters of quality football together. And until they do that, we're going to see this roller coaster, if you will, of play throughout the game. Now, Indiana drops to 3-1 on the season.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked off the podcast about how this would be a tough game for them to win. They just not quite there yet as a program. All right, moving on to Purdue. They outlasted Florida Atlantic University 26-24. Austin Burton got the start at quarterback for Aiden O'Connell, who's injured. So Burton completed 72% of his passes, had 166 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. So kind of a neat story. Burton's been waiting to get a chance to start, so it's been about 2.5 years. And one of those stories where your time comes and you help deliver. So the FAU team had a chance to win in the 4th quarter, but they failed on a 2-point conversion after scoring their final touchdown. Purdue was able to run the ball when they needed to, and they closed out the game on defense when they recovered a FAU fumble.
Aaron, this is one of those games, if you are a Purdue fan, you almost feel like you lost this game even though you won the game. I mean, FAU had more total yards on offense than Purdue did. Let me remind folks who are listening to this podcast, FAU plays in Conference USA. Purdue has taken care of business earlier than they did, but they allowed the Owls to stay in this game really till the end. The Boilermakers, they got some work to do, Aaron, until when they continue Big Ten play here.
Yeah, no doubt. Both IU Purdue have some work to do, like you said. Notable scores around college football. So, like basketball schools like Syracuse and Kansas moved to 4-0 after beating Virginia and Duke, respectively.
So I heard on ESPN, this is interesting. Kansas has a sellout before USC has sold out their home game. I just thought that was interesting. Uh, it feels like 2008 for the Jayhawks, which is the last time they were relevant on the national stage. Clemson needed 2 overtimes to remain unbeaten against Wake Forest. What a game that was. We thought it would be close, and it sure was. It was close.
Yeah, Middle Tennessee knocks off number 25 Miami 45-31. The Blue Raiders scored on an incredible 98 touchdown pass in this one. I thought that was a crazy highlight.
Yeah, that was a crazy highlight. I saw that one. USC narrowly escapes Oregon State 17-14. The Trojans proved that when their offense plays at a below subpar level, they can still find a way to win, and that's a sign of a good team, Aaron.
Definitely. And Kansas State knocks off the number 6 Sooners in Norman, Oklahoma by a score of 41-34. Wildcats quarterback Adrian Martinez had a great game leading the way with his legs and his arm.
Now, Jimbo Fisher took a lot of heat when he lost to App State. By the way, App State just lost to Jameson, I think. The Aggies, however, they get a huge win against Arkansas, 23-21. And now the Aggies were actually favored in this game, although Arkansas was, at that time was ranked 10th in the country. I think Texas A&M was like 23rd. But a big win, much needed win for the Aggies.
Yeah, and Tennessee finally beats their rival Florida 38-33 to remain unbeaten at 4-0.
We talked about on the last podcast how long it's been since Tennessee beat Florida. In fact, game day on ESPN was at Tennessee for this game. So just a lot of good energy in the volunteer program for football. Oregon, this was an incredible game, Aaron. Football after dark here. Oregon scored 21 points in the span of just a few minutes to stun Washington State late in the fourth quarter, 44-41. A heartbreaking loss if you're a Cougar fan. If you're Oregon, sigh of relief, got the win, and you move on to a big game against Stanford next week.
Yeah, then Texas Tech upset Texas 37-34 after a game-winning field goal in overtime.
Huge win for the Raiders there. Let's look at so if you recall last week, Aaron and I started our college picks, kind of like we did for high school. And Aaron went 2-0. I went 2-1 in our picks. So we're going to do the same thing this week. We're going to have our college picks here. So Friday, this is my game here. Friday, 10:30 o'clock. On ESPN, you have 4-0, 15th ranked Washington at 4-0 UCLA. Now Washington, as we record this, is a 2.5-point favorite. I'm sure that will change by the time kickoff starts. Former Hoosier quarterback Michael Penix Jr. So far, he's had a great year at Washington. 12 touchdowns to just 1 interception. UCLA is a little more balanced on offense than Washington is. This will be the Huskies' first road game of the season in what should be a wild night game. I think Washington has been battle-tested more. They've got a tougher schedule. Aaron, I'm going to pick the Huskies in a very close, tough game here.
I like that pick. Saturday at noon, 4-0, number 7 ranked Kentucky at 4-0. Mississippi, who's ranked 14th. Mississippi, a 4-point favorite in this one. I'm assuming because they're the home team. I'm going to go with Kentucky in this one. I'm going to keep riding Kentucky. If Kentucky turns into football school, that's great for me as well as an IU fan.
All right, going with the Wildcats of Kentucky there. So also at noon on ESPN2, the 2-2 Purdue squad at 4-0 Minnesota Gophers. The Gophers are a 10-point favorite. And I tell you what, they're rowing their boat up in Minnesota right now. Things are going very well. Aiden O'Connell should be back for Purdue. I would assume this game will come down to who can impose their style of play on the other team. Obviously, Purdue wants to pass. Minnesota wants to run the ball. Purdue has played a tougher schedule, I think. Despite their record, they are a solid team. Minnesota has taken care of business against a lesser opponent, so that's good to see. That Michigan State win, Aaron, was really nice for Minnesota. But I truly don't know how good the Spartans are, really. I mean, does anybody? It just seems like their season is falling apart as it seems right now. I don't think Minnesota will cover the spread, but they will get a win here in a close game. I think Purdue's going to really push them all the way to the end. But I like Minnesota here getting the victory.
3:30. Well, I like that pick too. Sorry, at 3:30 CBS, number 2 Alabama, who's 4-0 at 3-1. Arkansas is at time of recordings ranked 20th. Man, tough few games for Arkansas. I don't see how they're gonna beat Bama. Bama's a 16.5 favorite. I think they're just too talented, too deep, and I see the Roll Tide rolling in this one.
I like your pick, Aaron. I agree with you. That's a tough 2-game stretch. Aggies and then Alabama right after that. Okay, also at 3:30 on Fox, 3-0, number 9 ranked Oklahoma State at 3-1, number 16th ranked Baylor Bears. The Bears are a 1/2 point favorite. Oklahoma State has a powerful passing game. Baylor is more balanced on offense. Oklahoma State hasn't really played anyone yet, so this is their first real test of the season and is also on the road. I do like Baylor getting a win in a close game here.
Sick 'em Bears. All right, 3:30 ABC, number 22 Wake Forest, who's 3-1 at 4-0, and number 23 Florida State. FSU's the 4-point favorite. Man, this is a good one. I think I'm going to go with Florida State at home, and they're going to improve to 5-0. Seems like Florida State's kind of under the radar right now. This could be a huge win for their program.
It could be. You know, Florida State is kind of like Texas, and like they're traditionally a I don't know if you want to call it like a blue blood program or a powerhouse but in the last decade or so, it's like they haven't really done much. So, you know, are they back? I don't know. I kind of want to say they're back into the upper echelon of college football, but then every time we say that, it's like they lose that big game. So it feels like they're going to win this game, though. It really does.
Yeah, it does.
But I like your pick. Also at 3:30 on ESPN2, 3-1 Iowa State Cyclones at 4-0 Kansas Jayhawks. Now the Cyclones are a 3-point favorite. Jalen Daniels is a name that if you don't know yet, you're going to get to know him. He is the man on campus for the Jayhawks. He's Mr. Do-It-All for Kansas. He's got the Jayhawks with their best start in a long time. I'm telling you, David Booth Memorial Stadium will be rocking and rolling this coming Saturday. Huge crowd on hand for this Big 12 game. The Cyclones' biggest win so far is against Iowa. Of course, that was back when Iowa was still trying to find their offense. Some would say they're still looking, but they are playing better of late. Kansas road wins against West Virginia and Houston. You know, those are impressive wins. Many college football experts had Houston as a potential Group of 5 champion. Obviously, we know that, you know, they're not playing as well as we thought they were going to. In honor of our good Bethel friend, Ryan Starkle, I'm going to go against the spread here and pick the Kansas Jayhawks to go 5-0. And yes, they're going to beat Iowa State. I just think they've got the momentum right now. They have a solid team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do beat Iowa State.
Yeah, that's a great pick, Will. I like that one. That would be great for Kansas. At 7 o'clock, ESPN, 3-1 LSU at 3-1 Auburn. LSU is 7.5-point favorites. I like LSU to get the win here. I think Auburn's kind of a team that's looking a little disappointing at times. I think Brian Kelly will get the Tigers a win in this one.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind since the summer. You had all that drama with Coach Harsin. Is he the coach? Is he not the coach? Is he going to fire? People want him out. And then it's just been kind of awkward since then. But they are 3-1. Auburn is, and it is at home. So this will be an interesting game. Can Brian Kelly win a what many will call this is a big game, and this would be a huge win for Brian Kelly for sure. At 7:30, this probably is the game of the week for all college football. 4-0, number 10, North Carolina State at 4-0, number 5, Clemson Tigers. Now the Tigers are a 7-point favorite. This top 10 showdown in the ACC. North Carolina just beat Texas. That was a good win. Clemson's win against Wake Forest was solid. DJ needed to show improvement this year, and I think he has answered his credits. He's getting better. This will be Clemson's third conference game of the year, as compared to the Wolfpack's opening conference game. That might be a factor. Both teams pass more than they run, and both teams had quality quarterbacks. This might come down, Aaron, to whoever has the ball last wins. You know, that type of game. I can see a high-scoring marathon game. I think the Clemson dynasty is starting to show some cracks in their program, and other ACC programs are beginning to catch up. You look at NC State, Florida State. You could even say Miami is starting to make some gains on the Clemson program here. I'm picking the Wolfpack to get the upset against Clemson and Death Valley on the national stage in prime time. It's a risk. I know it's a risk, but I just have this weird feeling that North Carolina is going to get a huge win on the road.
Awesome, and the Wolfpack in the upset win. I like picks like that. That's great. 7:30 Big Ten Network, 3-1 Indiana at 1-3 Nebraska, and Nebraska is a 3.5 favorite in this one. I'm going to be honest. I think IU will win. I think IU is going to win, but I would not be surprised if they lost. I think Indiana has a little bit more continuity, you could say, so I like them to get the win here.
You know, Nebraska is the only 1-3 team that would be a 3.5-point favorite over Indiana.
Yeah.
It's going to be a sellout crowd. You know that. It's going to be loud. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere because it's Nebraska Cornhusker football. But I think IU is a better team. I really do. I mean, I've seen Nebraska a couple of times now, and they just don't, scare me that much. But you never know. It is Nebraska, and, and they had the bye week just this past week. So they've had 2 weeks to get ready for IU. So that could be a factor as well. So
yeah,
who
that's
knows?
good.
Hopefully your pick is right here.
Yeah, it'll be a long season. Yeah. Go Hoosier.
All right, let's move on to topic 4. We're going to talk about some NFL headlines here. Now, let's start with the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Ryan gets his first win of his Indianapolis Colts career. They stunned the Kansas City Chiefs 20-17. This was a must-win, and obviously they came through. Ryan threw 2 touchdowns to rookie Jelani Woods. The Chiefs bowed up Taylor, who only had 71 yards rushing. The Chiefs were really in control of this game for the most part, Aaron, but miscues down the stretch opened the door just enough for the Colts to come back. A failed fake field goal, a personal foul on a 3rd and long defensive stop that would have been a punt for the Colts, and a missed field goal attempt kept Indianapolis alive in this game, really. Kansas City brought a lot of fans to Lucas Oil Stadium. There was a lot of red in the stands, but they went home disappointed as Kansas City loses the first time this season.
Wow, yeah, this was a surprising game. I didn't see this one coming, but the NFL, you gotta play well to win. It doesn't matter who you play. Just another example of that. And then in the Chicago game, pretty typical Chicago win here. Khalil Herbert came up big for injured starting running back David Montgomery in this one. Herbert rushed for 157 yards and got the Bears only 2 touchdowns of the game. A pretty Bearsy win, like I said. Roquan Smith picked off David Mills to set up would be the game-winning field goal for Santos with time expiring. Justin Fields, didn't really have an outstanding game. Kind of did just enough. He went 8 of 17 with 106 yards. And the Bears overcame his 2 interceptions and got the win. So, the Bears get a win, 23-20.
Aaron, this is like the typical Chicago Bears style win, right? Play great defense. Quarterback just does enough to win and rely on your running game. So, great. Who would have thought the Bears would be 2-1 after 3 games? I sure didn't think so. But, wow, what a start for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, definitely.
Some other NFL headline news here. Miami beats Buffalo 21-19 to remain unbeaten. Wow, that's a huge win for the Dolphins there. Aaron Rodgers gets the better of Tom Brady as the Packers beat the Buccaneers 14-12. I watched the end of this game, and it was just fascinating to watch those two go back and forth. And Buccaneers just fell short, couldn't convert the 2-point conversion to tie it up at the end. So let's look at the biggest can't-miss games for next weekend for Sunday. 1 o'clock, you have on Fox 1 and 2, Tennessee at 1-1, Indianapolis Colts. This is a huge divisional game for both teams. You got to think Indianapolis has to win this game, Aaron.
Yeah, definitely a must-win. Really for both teams, probably. If they want to... Am I saying this? If they want to keep up with Jacksonville?
Yeah, what a huge win for Jacksonville today. They blew out... I don't even remember who they blew out, but it was like 38-something.
Yeah, I think it was the Chargers, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Chargers. They blew out the Chargers. Thank you.
No problem. At 1 o'clock on Fox, the 2-0 Giants will face the 2-1 Bears. The Giants could be 3-0 if they win Monday night.
And then 1 o'clock on CBS, the 2-1 Buffalo Bills at the 2-1 Baltimore Ravens. This could be a great game. Buffalo's gonna be mad after they lost the first one of the year. Great game here. 2 great offenses going at each other.
That should be a fun one. And then Sunday night, NBC 820 kickoff is 2-1 Kansas City at 2-1 Tampa Bay. Mahomes versus Brady again on prime time.
Kids, get your popcorn ready. This is going to be a great offensive game here. 2 great quarterbacks. I can't wait. How about this? You have Rodgers and Brady, and then the next one you get Mahomes and Brady. You can't get better than that. That's great.
Yeah, way to schedule there. The NFL did a good job.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to finish off our last 2 topics, talking about the South Bend Cubs and the Major League Baseball. If you are enjoying our podcast and want to donate, please find the donation link in our show notes. Any donation, no matter how small, will make a big difference in helping us bring you better quality podcast shows. Welcome back to the Will and Aaron Show, where we talk about local college and pro sports. We're going to talk about the South Bend Cubs. So in Game 1, they beat, they're in the Midwest League Championship here for minor league baseball. In Game 1, Lake County won 11-8. which means that they were in a must-win situation for Game 2, and the Cubs won 4-3. So it set up the final Game 3, the win-all to win all. The Cubs won, Aaron, 7-4 to win their second Midwest League Championship in 3 years. The Cubs' 10th-ranked prospect, we're talking about the Chicago Cubs here, the 10th-ranked prospect, Owen Cassie, had a 3-run home run. Some of these South Bend Cubs we could see at Wrigley down the road, Aaron.
Wow, congrats to the South Bend Cubs. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. Now, we've had several South Bend Cubs go on and play in the major leagues. Carlton Fisk, a lot of people may not know this, he is a Red Sox legend. He's in the Hall of Fame for baseball, but he had a pit stop right here in South Bend at one time. Current Cubs, David Bodie and Ian Happ, both spent time here in South Bend for the Cubs system. George Bell, he's a 3-time All-Star. He played for the Blue Jays, Cubs, and White Sox. Terry Francona, people remember him for winning a World Series at Boston Red Sox. He's now the current manager for the Cleveland Guardians. He was at one time a manager for the South Bend White Sox. Justin Upton, 4-time All-Star. He currently plays for the Los Angeles Angels. Of course, he played at Tampa Bay Rays as well. Just to name a few guys who came through South Bend at one point or another. So congratulations to our South Bend Cubs for being crowned the 2022 Midwest League champions. Let's move on to topic 6, our last topic of the podcast, Major League Baseball headlines. Of course, we got to kick off with Albert Pujols. Aaron, he did it. 700 home runs. What a moment that was for him, the Cardinals fan base, and Major League Baseball as well. On September 14th, he also became the 3rd player in MLB history to have 2,200 RBIs in a career. And on September 23rd, that's when he became the 4th player to hit 700 career home runs. He actually hit 2 home runs in that game against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Aaron, your thoughts?
Wow, pretty historic first Latino player to reach that milestone. What a great story for baseball, for sure.
So that was not the only milestone that occurred since our last podcast. Aaron Judge. Aaron, why don't you talk about Aaron Judge?
Yeah, the king of the Bronx right now is 1 home run shy of tying Roger Maris for 61 home runs in the American League. As of this recording, they're playing on ESPN against the Boston Red Sox on Sunday Night Baseball. What an opportunity for Aaron Judge to tie the record on baseball's biggest stage. Of course, the AL home run season record is a far cry of what the NL record is. So Barry Bonds had 73 in 2001. Mark McGwire, 70 home runs in 1998. Sammy Sosa, 64 in the same season. Mark McGwire got 65 in 99. Sammy Sosa hit 64 in 2001. Sammy Sosa hit 63 in 99 as well. Roger Maris, 61 in 1961 in the AL.
So, by the time you hear this podcast, Aaron Judge may or may not have tied his record, Roger Maris, 61. But that would be neat to see as well, to break the record. Let's look at the playoff picture here for the Major League Baseball. We have 3 divisional champions as of this recording. AL Central Division, Cleveland Guardians. AL West Division, Houston Astros. And the NL West Division, Los Angeles Dodgers. And the other races, now when you hear this recording, they may have already clinched. There's actually a good chance they will. But as of right now, they have not yet. AL East, Yankees, they're currently 8 games lead over Toronto. In the next couple of games, they probably will clinch. The National League East, that's the closest race in baseball. The Mets currently have a 1.5 game lead over Atlanta, but I believe Atlanta won today, so that may have changed. The NL Central, St. Louis Cardinals, they currently have a 7-game lead over Milwaukee. They will clinch their division within a few days as well. And the wild card race, the American League, Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Seattle look to be in good shape here. Baltimore is 4 games back. They probably won't catch up those other teams. And now in the National League, you got the Braves, the Padres, and Philadelphia. They're in a good position. Now, you might want to look at the Phillies and Brewers, because the Brewers are only 2 games back. So that might be a race that could really tighten up, especially in the next 2 weeks here. So we'll have to take a look at that. This concludes our episode. We want to thank you for listening to the Will and Aaron Show. Tune in next week as we discuss more local college and pro sports.